On the Medusa of Leonardo Da Vinci in the Florentine Gallery by Percy Bysshe Shelley, 1792 to 1822. It lieth, gazing on the midnight sky, upon the cloudy mountain peaks supine. Below far lands are seen tremblingly. Its horror and its beauty are divine. Upon its lips and eyelids seem to lie loveliness like a shadow, from which shrine, fiery and lurid, struggling underneath the agonies of anguish and of death. Yet it is less the horror than the grace which turns the gazer's spirit into stone, whereon the lineaments of that dead face are graven, till the characters be grown into itself, and thought no more can trace. 'Tis the melodious hue of beauty thrown athwart the darkness and the glare of pain, which humanize and harmonize the strain. And from its head, as from one body grow, as grass out of a watery rock, hairs which are vipers, and they curl and flow, and their long tangles in each other lock, and with unending involution show their mailed radiance, as it were to mock the torture and the death within, and saw the solid air with many a ragged jaw. And from a stone beside, a poisonous eft peeps idly into those Gorgonian eyes, whilst in the air a ghastly bat, bereft of sense, has flitted with a mad surprise out of the cave this hideous light had cleft, and he comes hastening like a moth that hies after a taper, and the midnight sky flares a light more dread than obscurity. 'Tis the tempestuous loveliness of terror, for from the serpent's gleams a brazen glare, kindled by that inextricable error, which makes a thrilling vapour of the air, and becomes an ever-shifting mirror of all the beauty and the terror there, a woman's countenance with serpent locks, gazing in death on heaven from those wet rocks. Okay, this is a poem by Percy Shelley. Shelley was born in West Sussex. He was a British Romantic poet. He went to Eton College and he went to University College, Oxford. He was a radical of his time, and he was an atheist. He eloped with his first wife when she was 16, and I think he was 20, although this marriage didn't work out. And then he fell in love with Mary Shelley, who was the daughter of a feminist radical of that time, Mary Wollstonecraft, and they went to live in Italy. They spent a lot of time with Lord Byron, and Shelley's first wife committed suicide, and then he married Mary Shelley. Now, let's look at this poem. So firstly, this says it's on the Medusa, that is by Leonardo da Vinci. Now, in the Florentine Gallery. Well, firstly, this is in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, the Florentine Gallery. And in Shelley's time, this picture was ascribed to Leonardo da Vinci. But since then, they've changed their minds, and it's now said to be by an anonymous 17th century Florentine painter. The picture is still in the Uffizi Gallery. But this is the picture. This is the picture of the Medusa's head. And the poem is a description of this picture. It really is a description of this picture. It lieth gazing on the midnight sky. So it's lying down and it's looking up at the sky of midnight. The picture itself is very dark, and I've increased the colours so that you can see it better. The brightness, so you can see it better. Upon the cloudy mountain peak supine. So the head is lying on its back. We don't really know where the body is, because this is just the head. But he's imagining that it's on a mountain peak. And below, far lands are seen tremblingly. And I get he's suggesting that if you look down from here, you can see the lands below. Its horror and its beauty are divine. Now, this is clearly one of the main things within this poem. It's saying that this is a mixture of beauty and horror. It's something that's horrible and it's something that's beautiful. So it's this mixture of the two. Upon its lips and eyes seems to lie loveliness, like a shadow, from which shrine fiery and lurid, struggling underneath the agonies of anguish and of death. So underneath its eyes and inside its mouth, there is a beautiful shadow, and inside the Medusa, inside her head, her thoughts are a shrine which is full of fire, full of lurid, of horrid fire, and underneath there are the agonies and anguish of death. So she's a terrible and beautiful creature. She's incredibly beautiful and terrible, because she's supposed to she turns to stone anybody that looks at her face. Yet it is less the horror than the grace which turns the gazer's spirit into stone. So it's not really the horror of this image of the Medusa, but it's the grace which turns anybody who looks at it into stone. Whereupon the lineaments, the characteristics of that dead face, the shape of that dead face are graven, are engraved, till the characters be grown into itself, and thought no more can trace. So the picture defines very clearly the characteristics of this Medusa. The lines that show this beautiful face, but this is a horror with the hair of venomous snakes. She is a monster. 'Tis the melodious hue of beauty thrown athwart the darkness and the glare of pain, which humanize and harmonize the strain. So it's a mixture of beauty thrown athwart, across. So it's a mixture of beauty and darkness, and the pain in her face, the pain and suffering which the Medusa feels, which make this picture human and harmonious, because clearly the Medusa was cursed to be like this, and if she turns everybody into stone, then the Medusa is cursed to a life alone, and this is a terrible curse upon her. And the Medusa still has her human qualities inside her. And from its head, as from one body grow, as grass out of a watery rock, hairs which are vipers, and they curl and flow, and their long tangles in each other lock. So out of her head are growing, as if everything is in one body, it's growing like grass growing from a rock. Hairs which are vipers. So the Medusa's hair are snakes, and they curl and flow, they move, and their long tangles in each other lock. So the hair is tangled, or the snakes are tangled in each other, and with unending involution show their mailed radiance, as if it were to mock the torture and death within, and saw the solid air with many a ragged jaw. So the snakes of her hair are tangled, and they are and it shows them curled around each other, and their mailed radiance. Mail is talking about chain mail. It's the scales. So the scales on the snake have this silver colour which shines, and this is as if it is mocking the torture and the death inside the Medusa. The Medusa is tortured herself, but she kills the people she looks at. And these snakes seem to soar, to cut the solid air with many a ragged jaw. So the jaws, the mouths of the snakes are open, and it's like they are soaring or cutting through the air. And from a stone beside, a poisonous eft peeps idly into those Gorgonian eyes. And on the left hand side, it's difficult to see from the picture, there is a salamander or a lizard, and it's looking into the eyes of the Gorgon. So now we're looking at the things around, whilst in the air a ghastly bat, bereft of sense, has flitted with a mad surprise out of the hideous cave. Out of the cave this hideous light had cleft. So above her there is a bat that has gone mad, that is crazy, and it's suddenly come out with surprise. It's come out of a cave which is clearly there and in the top right of the picture, and this bat has come out of the cave, and he comes hastening like a moth that hies after a taper. So he's come to look at the Medusa, to look at the reflections of the scales of the snakes, like a moth that is flying to a taper, a candle. So the bat is attracted, is pulled towards the Medusa, like a moth that is attracted by a candle, to hie, H-I-E, to go quickly, like a moth that goes after a taper, after a candle. And the midnight sky flares, a light more dread than obscurity. And this is clearly, this picture is very dark, and the light coming down is like a burning light that is dreadful, is just full of full of horror. 'Tis the tempestuous loveliness of terror. So here, this is a very nice oxymoron. Tempestuous loveliness of terror. It's the horror of terror, but the beautiful horror of terror. From the serpents gleams a brazen glare, kindled by that inextricable error, which makes a thrilling vapour of the air, become an ever-shifting mirror of all the beauty and the terror there. So there's a shine. There's the light is coming from the glare of the snakes, from the snakes, and the light. This is like a light that's coming from it, which makes a thrilling vapour. If you look carefully at the Medusa's mouth, there is vapour coming off her mouth. So she's recently been killed, and all of this scene is an ever-shifting mirror. So the silver of the snakes is like a mirror that's always changing. And you see all of the beauty and all of the terror there. And you see a woman's countenance, a woman's face with snakes as hair. And they're looking in death on heaven. They're looking up to heaven in death from those wet rocks. So the head is lying on these wet rocks. And I think this poem, it's full of pain for the person who was the Medusa. It feels sadness for you. She's a woman who has a terrible curse, and she didn't ask for this curse. And I think maybe she's a symbol of female power, and she is the power, or perhaps somebody who doesn't want to submit to the male world that she lives in. But I think this poem it's talking about a woman who has this terrible curse, and finally, Perseus cuts off her head, and he uses it as a weapon. I think he puts it on his shield. So, on the Medusa of Leonardo da Vinci in the Florentine Gallery by Percy Bysshe Shelley.